this package. Let's install that. So with this, I'll just have to install package, then find and install latest. So you wait for this to get installed. So while it is installing, we are going to create an anonymous for claim principal. This anonymous is going to be used anytime a response returns null. We have to surround it with try catch, so we can be using the authState section or the authState class that we created. Now you can see from here that we have this authentication state provider. It has its own abstract class that we can implement. So control period, you have to implement this abstract class, and that is get authState. So let's implement this first, and that is a get authentication state async. You create anonymous for this. Now what we're going to do next here is you're going to use try catch block to handle while we try to access the authentication state of a user. How are you going to handle this? We're going to handle this by first, so let's make here as an async. We're going to use this authentication state service that we created. We're going to get user detail. This get user detail is going to call an API, and this API is going to append the HTTP request. It's going to append the header to it. As soon as it gets to the API, it extracts the header, verify it, make a call, and I return a user info to this. So that's what we are storing it here. The return here is an user session, which comprises of the email, the name, and now the row. Let's include this service here. And with the new feature of C# version 12, we can use primary constructor instead of injecting it and initializing it on top here. Very simple one. Okay, so we have it. Now we check if the response of this is null or email here is null. It means you want to return the anonymous one, which is a new instance of this claim principal, and it tells you that there is no identity. The person currently it is not registered. But in case it is not something, it has data. What are we doing? We create a claim principal. Then you can see we are setting up the claim principal. If I peep this definition, you can see here it takes in the user session model, that is a response from the API, and also it creates an instance of a claim principal. Then you can see we are setting it over here for name, email, and row, and I return a claim principal. So as soon as we click on this or we save this, it is returning a claim principal. Aside from that, we return this authentication state, then we pass in this claim principal. So the instance that we created here now it has data, so it means the user is authenticated. In case we have any error or you have any issue trying to get this, you want to return anonymous. It means that the person or the connection couldn't go through and the person by then wouldn't be authenticated. Aside from this, what if in case I log in and I want to update this? Is it possible? Yes. This method gets executed anytime the page is redirected to another page. From one page to another page, this method gets executed. If we want to update the token, what can we do? We can also create another method in here, and this is going to take a payload of token property. If you've watched that's the video 9, part 9, you know what I'm talking about. This token property here, it is the property that, or there is a model that we are converting into a JSON string, and I'm saving it to the client browser local storage. It contains only two properties known as the refresh token and now the access token. So that is what we're going to use here to send an API request to the API, the controller, to retrieve the data of this current user. So in that, we're also going to create an instance of this claim principal in here. And now we're going to check if this is null. It means the user wants to log out. So if this is null, we want to log out. And this is the state that we are doing. So that as soon as you call this method and pass in null, it means you want to log out. So we say that if token property is not null, or if the token here it is not null, token property in this token model is not null, that is when we want to perform this. Else, what do you want to do? Else, we want to remove the token from the local storage. Okay, so we're going to pass in else. We want to remove the token from the local storage. And this authentication service contains a method known as remove auth token from the local storage. We create an instance of this. We set this claim principal that we have here to anonymous. This anonymous is what we are using as an initial value here, instance here. Now, if token is not null, what are we doing? So first of all, we want to set it to local storage. So this is what we are doing first. After setting it to local storage, what are we doing? We want to get user details. Get user details is going to call a service, whereby this service is also going to call an HTTP client. And this client, before we get a client, it's going to get the token from the local storage and append to the header. When you check the definition for this, it tells you the same thing. So you can see from here that we have this method. It's get the token from the local storage. Aside from that, it calls a method to add a header, that's authorization to the HTTP client. Then it makes a call in here. So get user detail from API, and now this method here also going to make a call. So if our people, you can see it is making a call to this API account and a user info. We did this in the previous video. Now, after getting the user details from the page, we also check if it is not null. If the request is not null, what do you want to do? We want to set claims, because by then, data will be received from the API. So the data that we are going to receive, we want to set it to the claims in here. Claims principal, get the user session from the API, and now set it in here. Now the instance that we created here, that is what we are storing the output of this in here. And at the end of the day, we are going to notify state has changed. So anytime a call is being made to the API and now the data is being retrieved, we're going to set the principal to this, and now we're going to notify the state to get re-rendered, and that's going to be passing the claim principal in here. So you pass in now of this token property model, and now it's going to remove from the local storage. You pass in a model with an instance with a value, and now it's going to update it. So we're going to use this for login, and we're going to use this for logout. You pass in a model value, it's going to be for login. You pass in a model with an empty value, it's going to be for logout. See, so we have one method which is going to serve two purposes. Okay, so we have this custom auth class created nicely. The next thing I'm going to do here is we have to register this custom auth state in the program.cs file. So let's save this. We go to solution. Now the client section, we go to program.cs file. And now in here, we have to register this custom auth state to this authentication state provider. So now we have this, we have to create our login and our register component. So we can be calling this method in it anytime we try to log in. So let's go to solution. The same client, you see our pages, open it. Let's add another page to this, and this is going to be account pages. You can name it any name that you want. So new folder, and I'll say account pages. Now with this account page, what we're going to do here is we are going to add one page or two pages. The first one is going to be register. So let's create a page in here. And I will say this is register component. So that's the register page. And now in that registration page, we want to specify the routes in here. So first of all, we need to use the route. And that's identity/account/register. This is my customized route. You can also do yours. Now, aside from that, let's create an instance of this user so we can be using it in our model. We have this, and that's going to be for user. We create an instance of this. Control period, we have to include the namespace of this model. So we have to add a model in here. What I'm going to do here, we can just cut this. You save this, go to the import, and I'll paste it in there. So you can use it globally, the whole application, this client section. So we have an import, and now in here, let's include the DTO here. Okay. So now we have this register page, and it's supposed to work. Okay, now let's create our edit form. Now this edit form is going to handle only user data for registration. So we can put it top here. What are we doing? We have an edit form, and now this edit form, this is a model as user. This is our submit. We have these two guys here to check for validation. We have our class form group, and you can see we have this label and our input text. You can see we have this as name, email, password, which is the password type. And also we have confirm password, and it's the same thing over here using an input element. And here we are having this show save button. We did this in the previous video. That's a part 2 of this, showing a button. So this is a show busy button. As soon as I click on register, I must have at least something to tell the user that there's a process going on. So I created this component, and that's what we are using in here. So you can see we have this message dialog service that show save button. And now there's a button itself which has a type as submit. You have to create definition for this handle registration method. Now with that, we can just create it down here. So if I click on this, I want to handle this. That's the syntax of handle registration. Now with that, what am I doing? We have to include, when you check this, maybe you'll be asking yourself where from this message dialog service. That's in the part 3 or 4. We created a service that we can handle to display message dynamically. So when you check the import, you can see we added the message dialog service in there. So that's what we're using to display message to the user. So when the page loads, we have to subscribe to this because you're going to have a message dialog action service that we need to subscribe to this event. So in here, register page, when the page loads, you make sure you subscribe to this. Now we have to implement iDisposable so that when the page is dying out, we also unsubscribe from that event before the page dies out. So in here, we can now use when the page public void dispose, we can now unsubscribe. Now since we are using plus here, it means you can also use minus to unsubscribe from this, and that is it. Aside from that, we need to include our message component that we created earlier on, so we can use the display message show pop-up to the user. Now aside from that, when the page loads, and now when I click on this save or register, first of all, we want to display, you want to hide the save button, and that's the save button. You want to hide this. We want to show the busy button. So we want to show this, and I'll hide this. How much time are we hiding? We are hiding for this process to be done. And so we're going to copy this. We call this endpoint account service.register. Where from this account service, we have to now create a register this account service. So let's go back to the import.register, and I'll handle that in there. So when you go to the import, we have in here, we can add in our account service, and that is a service that we created in the video part 9. So we are using this account service, and it has a method known as a register in this. Now here we're using the tuple to get and to extract or to get the values or the response explicitly. So we have our flag and we have our message. Now in there, we want to display something to the user. As soon as the person registered, if it goes well or it couldn't, we want to tell the user something. We want to give the user update. So in that, we are going to check with the, we're going to use if to check. So if flag, meaning if true, if everything is working, we want to set the value as success, and that is the message that's going to come out. We clear the container, but in case it is not, we want to set it as danger, and are passing the message that is coming from the API. Aside from that, there's one method that we need to call, and this method is going to invoke and now raise the JavaScript method to call or to show the dialog box, and that's a set message dialog. If I peep on this, you know it has inbuilt methods, and that is what we did to show. You see, we have set message dialog, and it is showing this message dialog box. It is setting busy button to false, and now setting or show save button to true, and it is invoking an action in here. Okay, so that's all that we need to do for this registration. Now let's do same for the login. So we have to also create our login page, and I handle it in this way. So we go to solution. Now the same accounts pages, we right click and I'll add a new component. And now the name of this component is going to be login page. So we have our login page in here. What first to do here is we have to specify our route, and this coming from accounts, identity/account/login. We have to implement iDisposable since we're going to use a message dialog, and we have invocable method in it. So we have to do that. And now when the page loads, we have to subscribe to this as we did in the register page. So we subscribe to this message dialog service. And now when the page is about to die, we have to do same by unsubscribing it using a public void dispose method to do that. Okay, so now we have this, we need to create an edit form. So our edit form is going to handle this, and we have only two properties in the login, and that is for email and password. So that's what we have in here. Edit form, we have it. Data annotation for checking up and errors in there. We have a handle login. Okay, we have an email, we have a password, and it's the same thing that we did in the section, that's the registration. Show the save button. So after doing this, the next thing that we're going to do here is we need to create and instantiate a model, and this model is going to be the user model. So with that, we're going to have login DTO, then we're going to have our user, which and you can see we assign it to a new. Let's close this, and now let's open it again. Okay, so you can see we have it in here. Now there's a button handle login. So if I click on handle login, what am I doing? We can just handle this. So this is what we are doing down here. You can see that we have this account service.login. We call this. Now we show message dialog, as you can see from here. We set this to false, and now we show the busy button. Now in case this is true, that is the result.flag is true, what are we doing? We are calling this authState provider. That's the class that we created. And now in that, we are updating a method in it that we created. And now that updating, you can see we are passing in this token. So let me just put this here. We are populating the token for the results, and also the refresh token, because it is coming for this token property. So control period, we can include the namespace in here. Custom authState, we can also include the custom authState on the header. So we have to use authentication state provider, and we can do that from the import. So down here, let's include our authentication state provider, and also let's include a navigation manager. Okay, so here it is coming from namespace here that we just created. So it is coming from Microsoft.ASP.NET.component.authorization. So we can now check from the login page that we have everything working as expected. And so this is what we're doing, because we are calling this method. Now pass in the token and then the refresh token in here. Aside from that, we want to navigate to this page and then force reload. We force reload so that I can just reload the custom authState, so we can pass in the claim that we have from an API that we called, and also authenticate the user. Okay, so once we have this set, the next thing we're going to do here is we have to save this and use cascading authentication state provider to surround the route components. So let's go to the same client section. You can see we have this app.razor. Now in here, we're going to make this as authorized route view. So don't forget authorized route view. And now on top here, let's use cascading authentication state, so we can surround it with this. Okay, so that's what we need to do. So after doing this, then let's navigate to an app bar so we can display maybe information there for the user. Hello guest, hello username, that we can display in there. So go to layout, and you can see we have this navigation bar that we created in the first video. Now here where we have this brand, we are going to add something in here, and in that we can display the name of the user. If not authenticated, then we can display something like hello guest, right? So maybe you can display hello guest normally. So let me paste this here, and you can see it's an HTTP that we're using, and you can see it's an authorized view, and if it is authorized, display the name. If not, then display guest. And also after doing this, you can see we have this drop down from the section, and this for accounts. As you can see, there's a drop down, and you see we have a default one for the Bootstrap. So we want to remove this and now include our own, and now this is what we are creating in here. Let's have a look. So it's just a URL. That's another list that we have as a drop down, and if you are authorized, as you can see, we want to display this logout. And if you're not authorized, then we want to display this register and now login. But to do that, we have a button, and now we navigate to this. You pass in the login in here. Now we do same for the navigate to this, and that's now click. So that is what we have in here for navigate, and it's going to call. So this is going to render when you are not authorized. Okay, because we have this authorized attribute. That's an authorized component surrounded. And we have this button, so let's define this button, and that's what we have down here. Navigate to the URL, and I can see we have the identity/account. We pass in the URL that's coming in here. Because when you check the route for this login, it is identity/account/login. For registration, the same thing /register. So we can do this to navigate to those components. All right. So before you run this application, I want to make some slight change in here from Solution Explorer. You see from this, the same navigation bar, there is also a link in here that I want to change. And that is if I click on product, I want to navigate to this product, not services, so product. Okay, now I think you are good to go. So let's try to run this application and see what we have now. Okay, so it is ready, but we have an issue here, and unable to resolve this. When I know what it's talking about, you know, we have to include this the service to Blazor local storage. Quickly, let's go back to the program.cs, and that is for the client, and we have to add. Let's make a copy of this. Then in here, it's going to be .add Blazor local storage, and that's all. So we can now run this again. Alright, so we can see that the app is now ready, and we have hello guest because we have not authenticated. Now let's see. So let's click on, you see we have this login, we have the register. So let's click on register. Now we have this page. So we're going to pass in some things in here. Let's say this is netcode, right? So there's netcode, and you know, normally the email here is going to be an user because we've registered already, I think so. So there's no need for us to even register, but we can actually try this out. So let's say this is user. Well, let's make that admin at gmail.com. We have a password here as admin at 123. Admin at 123. That's our password, right? So we see it is the same. Now click on register, and I can see we have processing, and we are waiting to see the account created. That's fine. So this is a dialog box that we have, and you have it type as success. You can see the button and the test here, the success. Click on OK. Now we can go in there and now log in. So let's try to log in, and this time we're going for an email. So this is going to be an admin at gmail.com. Let's see, this is our password. Click on login, and now let's see what happens. So from login, we have logged in, but as you can see, we did not see that indicator, that busy button. Now you have hello netcode, isn't it? Now to click on this, you see we have logout. Hello netcode, and now this is what logout. That's fine. The next thing here is if I click on product, so there's nothing here, isn't it? But let's say I click on inspect elements, we have to add product to this. Click on console, and it is saying that it does not contain any elements, so that's fine. We want to add product to this. So now let's go to product in here, and now let's add product. So we've done this. I'm going to add multiple products, so I'll come back, in order to waste time, I'm going to add products. So let's wait for this to get open. As you can see, this is the form. It is opened, and I'm going to add some products in there. Okay, so I just added a few products in here. Now I can see what we have this. If I click on product, we are navigating to the whole product, and you can see that I have logged in here as hello netcode. So we have these categories created. and I can just click on this because we did this in the video 7 or 6. You can just sort them out because we have only Apple iPhones, we have only Samsung phones in here, and we can click on all, get all. We have this recommended product. As you know, we've done this already in the previous video. Now what you're focusing here, it is authentication system. So we are now trying to add a header to make a request. So if I click on add product, let's say I tried one here and it's working. So let's say I have Samsung maybe Z Fold 19, and I'm going to select the image in here. I'm going to choose any image that I have downloaded here, which is only PNG. So the image must be only PNG file. Okay. Now watch here, as soon as I click on save, a product is being called, and this is the post method. Now you see this post method, it has in the authorization, and that is the token that we have created, right? So this is the token. You can see the token is working because we have this product saved. Now let's go to the table, and I'll try to check the token, and I'll set the date. Change the date as an expired. So we can do that from the SQL Server object. We have the token info. I click on this, and I click on view data. And now in the view data, let's wait for this to get pop-up. Then we're going to change the date. So we see this is an expiry date, and that's the token in here. It starts with what? That is here we have ZPD. So ZPD, let's check which token are we using. So this is ZPD TDR, and that's what we use, I believe so. So that is what we are using, isn't it? TDR, that is this. Now this is the expiry date from 19, so we're going to set this to 17, or maybe any day at all. You see we have, so it's set to 19, so let's submit to 10th or 02nd. So second. Now let's save this. If I refresh it, let's see. Okay, so second. Now let's try to make a request again. So I'm going to choose another image from here, and this image could be this PNG. Okay, now I'm going to say Samsung. I don't know, just give it any name. Now watch here, I'm going to clear this, and if I click on save, let's see, so the request is being made from here. Now let's wait and see. Okay, so product saved. Let's click on OK. Now if I click on this, there is the authorization header that we have. Now there is the product that we have in here. Okay, so we are retrieving the product featured, that is 3 and 4, so retrieving all. But here you can see, although the date, the token is not up to the date, it is, let's say, it has expired, but it still works. The reason is we have not implemented that in the session yet. So let's quickly go back again and try to finish that. So let's close this, and we go back to our client service. So we have our service. You see when you open this, we have this client service which inherits from all the components, all the interfaces. That is for product. It has product, iCategory service, and iUser account service. Okay. Now the method that we have here, not all that we need to protect it. We need to protect only if you want to add product. That is where you need to add a header. Get all product is the default one, so whether you're authenticated or not, you have to still get the product so you can see on the screen. But this must be done by the administrator. So in this, to have access to this, we have to include, let's include the authentication service that we created. So we have to include into the constructor here. Okay, so there's a constructor. We include it here. Okay. Now, when it comes to the page, right, for instance, this add product, in order to protect it, it's very simple. We have to then call the method in it, and I'm trying to use that. So we're going to create a private method in here because we need the HTTP response header. So we need a private HTTP response header from this authentication service. We have this method that we are calling, which get the token from the local storage and append to the header and I return. So we're going to use this, copy this, we're going to use this instead of the default one. We use this here. It is only add, Now when you go to add category 2, we have to do same to it, because these are the things that we need token, or we need header, a token in the header. So we go back, this is the category section, and in here we create an instance of this. Let's use this private one and call the method in here. So this is what we are calling. But in order to check for this and I'll get a refresh token, we have to include just the method that we created in it. And that is the method that we created, get user details. So this anytime a call is being made, it's going to check if the header contains authorization section and the response here is 401, it's going to generate the refresh token. It's going to make a call to the refresh token. Now we're going to have it. So it's a matter of calling this into any component. So let's go to the add product in here, and now let's also call this here. So this is going to authenticate us. It's going to check everything that we have been preparing for. Now with that, after doing this, what we need to do here is we're going to run this application and let's check it out. So it is now ready. Now if you right click on this, you go to inspect element, you're going to see that as soon as we finish the registration, the token has been saved into the local storage. So let's check it out. So here, click on this application. Okay, so let's see this application. And I want to check the local storage. We have to get the access token, and that is the token that we have created or recreated. That's a 7KWQ, right? Now I want to check this. We must have the same token in here, but if we see that the token here does not correspond with this, so maybe this is what we're going to do. We are going to delete this. Let's also delete this one. Let's go to the browser here, and now what we have in here, let's also delete it. So if you refresh this application, this is going to be guess, not hello net code, because you are not more. So you can see that we have hello guest in here. Now let's try to sign in to this. So you click on account, then try to log in. Then in here we have an admin, a Gmail. So let's use the user. That is the admin type, and the password here, that is string. So let's see if this is going to get set. Click on login, and now you can see we have processing. Please wait. Now let's check it out. You see we have in here, let's see. So it is still loading. Now when you check the network tab, you can see that a call has been made here, and that is the user info. Now with that user info, you can see the authorization has been added as a header, and there's a token that has been received. When you go to the response, you can see there's a token, there's a name, email, and the row is the user. So you see we have the row in here. Now when you check the local storage, you can see we have the access token, and that is it. So anytime that we try to refresh this user info will be called again. Let's see if I try to refresh this again, let's see what happens. You can see that the user info will be called again, and it's going to get the same data from the endpoint. And that is it. You can see we have it over here, and the same response has been retrieved here. Let's go to the database, and now in here let's refresh our table, that's the token info. And now we're going to see the data in here, and we are going to modify this. So expiry date is 19th. Let's change this to 10th. So today is 17th, no 18th. So you can see from here that the created date is 18th. And now if the expiry date is less than today, it means it has expired. So meaning today, this expiry date is 10th, today is 18th, meaning this has expired. Let's save this. When we refresh this, make sure you keep the date as 10. And also you can see from the access token, the refresh token, you see it start from 30, right? Now let's go back to the app, and now let's clear this. So if I click on, let's refresh this. So when you make a call to the API, it's going to return an authorized. As soon as you get an authorized and a header has been added, it calls the refresh token endpoint and passing the header, as you can see. So user info, you can see it's 401, meaning it is unauthorized. So check it over here. It is 401 unauthorized. And there's a header. So as soon as this gets called, and now you can see there's a token. So it gets a refresh token call, and now it passing the same token. When you check the response in here, it check the payload first. It passing the refresh token. And now the response from an API, it gives you a new token and a new refresh token. It stores it, it appends to the new one, and now see we have the information over here. When you check the header, if you see the header of this is JLY. Check the header of this, you can see this is 30, and it's the same. So this means that the refresh token is also working. Now we try to update it. So we can just go back to add category. And it's going to do the same. So with the category, when you go in here and I try to refresh this, now it's going to update it with a new token. So refresh this. And now you can see from here that you have a new token also in here. And now with the expiry date, we are going to also change the same thing to 10th. Okay, let's save this and refresh this. Let's go in there and try to add category and see what's going to happen. So from this side, I'm going to add a new category. So new category. So with the new category, I'm going to clear everything. Now check, save this. You can see it gets it called, and now it is 401 return. Refresh token has been get called, and now you can see we have the status 200. There is a payload, it passing the refresh token. Response is this a new token being added, call this user info, and now it's able to retrieve it, and now you can see we have saved. So this means our refresh token is working and it gets executed as soon as a response status code of 401 has been occurred, and that is what it does. All right, so with this, our authentication system is set and done. We have our refresh token, and also we have our auth state token also as well. We're using the access token, and that's what we have. We are going to look at how to handle add to cart service in this project. So we're going to have access to the product, and as soon as the user clicks on add to cart, it has to be added, and the UI has to be updated automatically, and you must see the number of items in it. And when I click on this cart item 2 or this icon, it must open a page whereby I can see all my carts, that my item that I've added to the cart. And also maybe I can update it from there. You know, by default, you're going to add one item to a cart. And maybe when the person goes there, you can then change the quantity of the item. And we have to make it possible as well. Aside from that, when we go to the product service, you have to also include pagination. Because when you have multiple items here, we don't want to be looping through or be displaying them all over here. When you have hundreds or thousands of items, then it's better that we have to integrate in pagination. We're going to do the same in here. Okay. First of all, we're going to implement this pagination to this. So we're going to use, I think, 6 items per page, because you're not having much items here. So we're going to use 6 per page. Maybe you can increase it to maybe 10, 20, depends on how you want it. So I'm going to show you the way, and you can just optimize and customize the way that you have seen yourself. Okay, so quickly let's jump into it. I'm going to close this, and that is the app that we have started together. So with the pagination, we are going to handle it in the client section. So it is not on the server side, rather client section. So there's a component known as SyncFusion component for SF Pager. Now this pager actually helps a lot in doing it. It's very simple, and is the easiest way to integrate pagination in your application. Let's have a look. Remember that we've installed this package already, and that's the SyncFusion component. We've installed it already. So what we're going to do here is this component comes from the SyncFusion.blazor.navigations. Navigations. So if you haven't installed that, please do install that to the client section. So if you want to check, you can go to the client section, you go to dependencies and packages, And you can see we have syncfusion.blazor.navigation. So this is a package that you have to install if you haven't done that. And as you know, when you install this package, you need a license key. So if you don't know how to claim free license key, I have a video link, this description, check it. I'm going to show you how to get a free license key. If not, you can have a notification to get a license key. Okay. Now, first of all, what we're going to do here is we need to specify some properties for this. We need to specify the component name that is an SF pager. We need to specify the skip value and also the tick value. So it's going to get to the list of all products. It's going to skip the one you specified, and it's going to take the number that you're going to specify. So skip and tick is what it's going to use to paginate this component. So let's click on. I can just close this peacefully without any issue. Now let's go to the pages. You can see from this product pages, this is where you want to apply it. Now this, which component are you going to apply to? It is a product list page, because this page contains a whole list of the items. As you can see, it is looping through. So what we're going to do here is in the code section, let's specify these properties. Then we need a SF pager, and we need the skip value and the tick value as well. Aside from that, we're going to need event. As soon as you click on any of the buttons, either the forward or backward, it's going to skip and tick the value. So we're going to use this pager item click event ask, which is going to contain a number of clicks and also the current item and etc. So we have to get that. You can get the values here from this ask here. Okay. So you can see we have ask.current page you're going to have access to, and that's what we need. All right. So once we have this, we need to then apply the pager itself. So how are you going to do it? It's very simple. When you check this, you can see there is a card. Where is it? Do we have the card in here? So you can see we have a row and we have this, and we want to put it beneath this. So after we have the for each, you know, there is a row. So this row, we can put it somewhere here. We are just making as a deflex for just a bootstrap class. We want to center this, and you can see we are using this SF pager. The reference is very important, and you can see it's the same name as specified in here. Take note. Page size is going to be 6, so the number of items that I want to display is going to be 6. For me, it is 6. You can make it 10, you can make it 12, you can make it 20, you can make it 50, or etc. Now, number of items count. Let's say if I have the pager, I want to display page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. That's the number of items count. Display them. You can make it 3, 2, 1, 10. Just do it. Okay. So 4 is going to be okay for me. I think it's also for you as well, since you are just learning this. Then total items count here is going to have the all product here dot count. So where are you getting this all product from? That's what we are looping through in here. So we want to get the whole count here. And now when item is clicked, you're going to handle by this, which passing this argument as parameter. And that's what we are retrieving here. And I'm getting the current page out of it. Very simple one. One last thing that we need to do here is we have to apply the railbus itself, and that is escape and take. So you're going to pass it on top here. Make sure you put it not within the for each loop, but rather here. So instead of using this all product, I'm going to cut this, and I see right here. So I'm going to copy this. Now you place it with this for each, and that is it. Very simple and fantastic. Now let's see. So I'm going to save this, and we're going to run this page again. You're going to see that the pagination is going to be simplified. And it's going to be simple for you to know and understand it. Okay, so let's run this and see. All right, so let's click on products, and now let's see. That's right. So you can see we have a product in here, and you can see we have only 2 items. It is skipping 0 and taking 6. So you can see we have 6 items here. If I click on this, we have the others in here. Isn't it beautiful? Do you love it? Yes, very simple, and it's provided by Syncfusion, so you can just check it up and now do it. If you know you couldn't do it well, then pause the video, go back, and now do it again. But don't worry, when I'm done with this, the project of this will be available at the GitHub, and now the link will be in the video description, so you can just go in there and then grab it and grab the whole project. Okay, you can do that, so it's possible. I'm going to make it possible for you. Okay, so now we are done with this. Now let's go to the add to cart system. We're going to implement it into this application. Now, let me give you a scenario on the cart system before we try to integrate it here. There's going to be a service that we're going to implement in this. Okay. Now, this cart is going to be handled by the client. So we don't want the server to be handled the cart. is going to be handled by the client in such a way that if the client decides to add product, it gets stored in the local storage. Since that product is not purchased yet, we don't want to put in the server. We don't want to worry the server. We want the server to get rest and the client to process everything. And now when it gets to payment, that is why we send the list to the server, and the server can also verify. Maybe if it has been tempered, the server will verify and now give us the correct prices, and now we're going to have access to it, and now we can now pay. Okay, so for now, everything here is going to be handled by the server, not the server, the client. And after that, when it gets to proceed to cart, that is only when the server comes in. So for now, we are not adding proceed to cart. We are adding all the cart service and everything stuff. So here we are focused on the client service. I hope you're good to go. Can we move on? That's right. So now let's go. We have to first create our cart service to handle this. And you know, our cart service has to come in with an interface and what? Implementation. That's correct. So now let's get this done. And you know, when you close this project, we have a services folder in there already. So we're going to add it to that service. As you can see here, that is the services. Where is it? It is here, isn't it? So we're going to create an iCart service. So right click on this and let's click on add new class. So here is not actually a class taken, it's going to be an interface, but class is what I saw. So there's going to be an iCart. Now in this iCart, we're going to implement some methods in this. So the first method that we need, we're going to implement these methods. Now what are these methods waiting for? We have an action. So there's a cart action. This action is going to be invoked. So any page you get to subscribe to this cart action can have the current action taken. It's going to affect the page. Let's say when you have this cart count, you want to display the number of items in the cart. Definitely this page is going to subscribe to this cart action. And as soon as the count increases or decreases, that page get notified. Okay. Also, we're going to have get cart count, a method to get the cart count and assign the value to this property in here. Also, if I click on add to cart, what do I want to do? I want to add a cart. I want to also specify quantity. Maybe later on, if I go to my cart list and I want to add, increase or update the quantity from 1 to 2 to 3, I can also do that. And also, we're going to create an order, and that's going to be my orders. This order is actually not going to be what they're going to pay, but rather all the cart items or the product that has been added to the cart stored in their local storage. That's going to be the order. Okay. Now this order is going to contain the name, the properties, such as the name, the image, the price, the total price, or the subtotal, and etc. And also we're going to have this delete cart in case maybe I want to remove one from the cart. I cannot buy all. I want to remove this. Is it possible? Yes. We're going to make it possible in here. So it's like going to make a CRUD operation in the cart system. And also we're going to have a cart loader visible so that when the cart is loading, we don't see just a blank table. Rather, you're going to see this loader that we have created already, and it gets loaded on the screen. So the cart is well prepared before the loader takes off, and on the cart list, we place it. Let's have a look. So we have to create these models in here. So maybe since this is limited to this client service, you can create a private model to handle this. We don't want to put this inside this shared project, okay, because it is limited to only this project. Well, that's what I'm thinking of. You can also add it there. You know what? So we can do same. Now let's create a folder to the client service, and I'm going to add a new folder in here. And I'm going to name it as maybe private models. Well, to me, private models will be okay. And now this private models, we want to create one property. And this property is known as, is it property or class? A class or a model. So let's add this model. And this model is an order. Now with this order, I'm going to have these properties in this order. So we're going to have an ID. Name, price, quantity, image, and our subtotal. Now the subtotal, we're not going to have get or set assessor. We can only have this get because we are setting the default value here, quantity times price. We'll give you the subtotal for this. So if the user tries to pass in 4 quantities for this specific item, then it's going to be 4 times the normal price, so that's the unit price for each. We're going to have the subtotal for that specific product. That's right. Now we can save this, and the next product that we need to create, the next model that we need to create here, it is maybe the storage cart Well, it'll be saying, what is a storage cart? It is simply is a model that you're going to use to save the product to the local storage. You know, we cannot be saving the product ID, the product name, the product price. If not, the person can just go to the local storage and now change the price of that product. Okay, so if maybe it is 10, the person can change it to maybe 1. And in that case, it's going to be a problem. So you want to handle this by storing only the product ID and the quantity. The quantity is what the user has specified. So if the user updates the quantity, well, they're going to multiply by the price. If the user changes the product price, then they're going to buy another product, isn't it? So that one is safe. So we have to create this model to handle that in the local storage. And that's supposed to be the limited one. So you put in the same priority model. And this time you say it is a storage cart. Within that storage cart, you want to have only 2 properties for this, which is going to be stored in the local storage. And now we need only the product ID and the quantity specified. So these are the models that we need for this cart system. Now we can go back to the interface and we can include this. So we have included them, and as you can see, everything is working as expected. Okay, so let's save this. Now we need to implement this. So we're going to copy this iCart system or the interface. We go back to the same solution. Now you can see we want to do everything in one folder or one class file. So that's why we started as a client service. So here, because this is about client, so you want the client service to handle that. You go to the service in here and the client service. We also want to include this interface control period. We have to implement the interfaces. I believe you know that. Okay, so we have to modify this. So I can just grab this and now modify it very simple way. So with this, we have our cart action. Now I believe we have to include the other ones too because it is not done. We have these interfaces here. That is the action as a cart action. We have the cart count and is cart loader visible. So yeah, that's what we have. And also when you go down here, we're going to have our implementation for this and that is it. So here I'm going to say it's a cart service. So var space, I'm going to say cart service. So we can just minimize it. So I'm going to make it simple for us to read. Okay, so we have all set and done. Yes, so we have, you see, and there's our account service. We have, let me add service to this. It is our authentication service, a cart service. Okay, so first of all, that is get carts. We have my others, add to cart, and now delete carts. So these are the ones that are going to implement them here. Before we work on this, we need some general method. And if I say general method, if you have been following this video, you know what general method is. We're going to be using them often. Okay, so here, we want to create classes whereby this class can be called multiple times. We don't want to repeat ourselves. So the common class that we're going to be using, we can put them in one class file. So we can call it and we can return the result to that specific class being called. Now we need this local storage and we have installed that already. So what we're going to do here is we have to inject it in here. And there's going to be local storage. And we say this local storage and that's all. Now, when you check here, we have it set, and that is so here you can see get cart from the local storage, and you know it is returning a string as you can see from here. So returning a string. This is the name that the key that you want to store with. So it is a key that you want to retrieve it. And now if you want to store it, this is the key, and that is the value in here. This is also a string, as you can see, it is a string. And if you want to remove it, it's the same key that we are passing in here. Okay, so it's like getting, setting, and now removing. Very simple one. So first, we're going to be working on my orders. And now my orders means it's going to get the whole item from the cart. So we're going to get it from the local storage. We're going to convert it, deserialize into a list form. And we're going to return to the user. And that's the UI. So this is what we're going to do in here. We defaultly set is cart loader visible to true because as soon as we click on cart item, we want to load all the database, not all the product in the local storage. We want to run them from the strings to convert them to a model. And now you want to check them. You can see we have only the ID and the quantity. So based on the ID, we have to search the database or the list that we have and then try to populate them here. So in doing this, it's going to take a lot of time. So a little bit of time, that's why you want to display this. Is cart loader visible? We said it's true so that at least you're going to update the user that there's some process going on, so please do wait for us. Okay, we are coming. That's what we are doing. Let's make this an async here. So you know that from here we set this to true. Now we create this as an empty order list. Then we get a cast string from the local storage, and we call this method is return a task. As you know already, it's returning a string in here. And aside from that, we check if it is null, return it. In case it is not, then visualize it to a list form. And now get all product, we set this to false. So you can get all the product and populate it to the all product container that we have in the service. Aside from that, so if you don't know, that is this is a model I'm talking about. This is a list container I'm talking about. Now, aside from that, what it's doing here is we are going to get a cat list. As you can see, the instance that we created here is .add. You're going to add new order, and you're going to populate it ID, name, quantity, price, and our image. Take note that we did not add subtotal because subtotal is defaultly calculated. So we added to the list, cat list here, and I will set this loader to false because by then this have been finished preparation. So after preparing this, then we can set this to false, and now we call this method get cat count, and we can now return this cat list. So they're going to return a cat list of order, and that's what we are returning in here. So get order from local storage, visualize it, run through the list, get to the list of the table, the list of the product that we have, populate them with the name, the item, the image, and I return it to the user. That's what this method is doing. Now, when we are done, we have a method known as get cat count. So this is going to get the number of cat count in here, the number of product in this cat list. So we can display it on the UI. So where from this method, what can we do to write this method? It's very simple as well. So in that, as soon as the value changes, we want to invoke the action. So we have get cat count, and that is this method. So here, this is what we are doing. We get the whole cat string from the local storage. This must be an async. Aside from that, we check if it is null, then set cat to 0. It means no item has been added. But in case it is not, then visualize it into a list and now .count. So count the list in it, and I return cat action.invoke. So any page that's going to call this method, you have to subscribe to it. And as soon as the changes happens here, that page is also going to refresh or re-render and to get the current or the updated value. Okay, so that's going to be the get cat count. Get cat count. Wow. So let's see the next one. That is the if I want to delete task, what am I going to do is very simple as well. So to delete tasks, we have this in here, and now we can see we get a cat. We initialize it from the local storage. And now we have the list. If list is null, then you want to return this. But in case it is not, then you want to remove. We get it from the list that we have. We find by the ID, then remove it. This must be an async, and I believe you know that. And aside from that, we are going to remove from the local storage. So as soon as you click on call this remove, it's going to call the key, remove it, and I'm going to serialize this here into a string, and now set it. And now when setting is coming, you're going to contain a string, and now set a local storage. Get a cat count, call that, and now return this. So when removing, as soon as you remove, you want to update it. If it is a 10 item in the cat, you want to get a cat count again, so you can have 9, okay, in that order. So that's why we call this method all over. Okay. Now let's go to the almighty, that is the add to cart. So with the add to cart, what can we do in here? This is what we are doing. It's a very simple one. We create a list in here. Let's make an async before we have these red lines. So we store a message here. We create an instance as null or empty. Then we're going to create a list of my cat in here as a new list. Then we're going to get from the local storage. You know, when we get from the local storage, it's going to be a string format. So we check if it is not null. Then we want to visualize the list into an actual list of models. And now here we want to search the model coming in. Is it already added? If it is null, it means it is not. Then we want to add a new one. Then set this message to product added to cart. Then, so you can see defaultly we add a quantity to equal to 1. So default quantity here is 1 defaultly. Else, it means that this model is found, and it is found. We want to set the quantity to the quantity. This quantity coming in here. Okay, that is, we want to set this quantity to this quantity coming in here, and we want to set the product ID to this model ID. So if you want to update the quantity, maybe you went to the my cart and want to update the quantity from maybe 1 to 2. Then as soon as you do that, this module is going to be called and passed in. And also this also will be updated to 2. And now we can now set it to the quantity in here and now update it. So you can see after doing that, we remove this from the local storage and now from the list that we have, and we add the new updated product in here. Then we display this message. But in case it is not, so check here. In case this is null, it means that this is the first time of the user being adding item to the cart. So in doing so, what are we doing? Or what can we do? Then we're going to add a new item to the cart. And I will return product added to the cart, maybe successfully, or etc. After that, we call this remove cart from the local storage. Okay. So once you have the list in here, user has now updated or added the new product. So it's in the list here. The old list in the local storage has been expired because it is not up to what we have. So in doing so, what can you do? You can just go in there, remove it, and now set the new one. So you can see we're doing the same thing here. Remove it, and I'll set the new one by initializing the list into a string, and I'll send it. Get cart count, and I'll return this message, which has been dynamically created in here. So that's all that we are doing. Very simple one. Okay, so that is it. We save this. The next thing that we can do here is we have to register this interface that we created by creating dependency injection to it before we can now create our UI. So we go to solution. Now the program CS file in the client service. We can just make a copy of this, and as you can see from here, then we change this to iCart, and that's all. Okay. Now let's close all this because we don't need them for now, okay? And let's close this in here and click on solution. When you go to the imports.razor file, we want to add this cart service in here. So we can make a copy of this. And now in here, instead of the iUser, you're going to say iCart. And now with this iCart, what do you think would be the name for this? You're going to say cart service, isn't it? That's right. So save this. And let's create the cart page first. So let's go to the pages folder, and let's add a new folder to this. I'm going to say cart pages. So in this, let's create one component, and I name it as my cart. So that is the client cart, not your cart. It's a client cart. So you can just make it his cart. Okay, so my cart page, and that's what we have in now. So this is what we're going to do first. When we're going to use this to check. So we are saying that if cart service.its cart loader visible, we want to display this loading page. Do you remember this loading page? It is just a loading symbol that we use to represent the page when the page is now preparing itself to gather things up and get us what we want, okay? But in case it is not, then we're going to use this else. That is when this page is set to false. Then we can now design our cart. So this is going to be a table that I created. It's a table. So let's go to the table and I'll check things up in here. So this is what we are doing. You know, it's just a page. It is just a container fluid, and you can see we have a row. We have our column edge3. So we're dividing into two. We have column edge3. That's the first one. If I close this, and you can see we have the same column edge9. So we have 3 and 9. Now the 3 contains the card, which has the cart summary as a header. And I can see we have my cart order.sum. So you can see we are summing all the total. We convert it into a string into this double session, and now we have to call that. Okay, that's what we are doing. We have a button in here, and this button is known as proceed to checkout. Although we haven't implemented this, but we have this button in here, and that is what we have. Now, when you go to the next one, so let me just close this. Now, when you go to the next one here, that is the column LG9, and you have the banner on top, which displays the random product as an advert to the person. And aside from that, you can see we have this table. Check it out. We have the same card. Within the card body, we have this table stripe in here, and that's a card header.